Hello and welcome to Quick English. Today, we share one of the most famous and influential love stories in music history: John Lennon and Yoko Ono, Love That Changed the Rules. The story begins in London in 1966. The world was obsessed with the Beatles, and John Lennon was the most famous musician on the planet. He was a rock star, a poet, and a cultural icon. However, John felt tired of his life. He felt trapped by the fame and the expectations of being a Beatle. He was looking for something new, something real. In contrast, Yoko Ono was an artist. She was born in Japan but lived in the United States and London. She was an important part of the avant garde art movement, which means she created art that was new, strange, and often difficult to understand. She was an independent, strong, and intellectual woman. John and Yoko came from completely different worlds. Their first meeting happened in November 1966 at the Indica Gallery in London. Yoko was preparing her art exhibition show. John, invited by a friend, visited the gallery before the official opening. John saw Yoko's work. It was not normal painting or sculpture, it was conceptual art, based on ideas and participation. One piece was a white canvas with the word yes written very small at the top. John was very interested in the positive message of yes, which was unusual in the often negative modern art world. Another piece was a ladder that went up to the ceiling. If you climbed the ladder, you could take a magnifying glass, a special lens to see small things, and read a small word written on the ceiling. John climbed the ladder. When he reached the top, he read the word yes. He loved it. It spoke to him directly. Then John saw a piece called Hammer and Nail. It was a wooden board with a sign that said, "Nail a nail into the canvas." Yoko was strict about her art. She did not want anyone to damage the piece before the opening, especially not a Beatle. John wanted to participate. He asked Yoko if he could hammer a nail. Yoko said no, not before the opening. John kept asking. Finally, Yoko said, "Okay, you can pay me 5 shillings, an old British coin, to hammer one nail." John replied, "I will give you 5 imaginary shillings if you let me hammer an imaginary nail." Yoko was surprised. She smiled. This moment, based on a game and shared humor, was the beginning of their deep connection. They talked for a long time that day. John and Yoko soon began a passionate and intense relationship. John found in Yoko the intellectual and artistic partner he had always wanted. Yoko saw in John a man who wanted to break free from his famous image. Their love was immediate and all consuming. It took up all their time and energy. However, their relationship was very difficult for the outside world to accept. The year was 1968. John was married to his first wife, Cynthia. The public and the media saw Yoko as an outsider, a stranger, and wrongly blamed her for breaking up John's marriage and, later, for the end of the Beatles. The press was cruel to Yoko. She received strong criticism and racist attacks. The world expected John Lennon to be with a traditional, glamorous woman, not a conceptual artist. But John and Yoko were a united front, a strong team. They faced the criticism together. Their love was also a radical artistic partnership. They started working together on everything. In 1969, they got married in Gibraltar. It was a simple, quick ceremony. They turned their honeymoon, the first trip after marriage, into a massive political statement. They held their famous Bed In for Peace in Amsterdam and then in Montreal. For 7 days, they stayed in bed in their hotel room wearing only pajamas. They invited the press and the public to talk about world peace. This was unconventional, peaceful protest art. They used their fame to promote a message of global importance. This unconventional style was their signature. Their love was public, political, and artistic. They made music together. They made strange films together. And they started political campaigns together. They refused to separate their private life from their creative work. The relationship put a huge pressure, on John's relationship with the other Beatles, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. Yoko was constantly present in the studio, which was against the Beatles' long standing tradition of keeping the studio private. This was one of the factors that led to the band's final breakup in 1970. The public viewed Yoko as the villain, the bad person, who destroyed the world's favorite band. But John was finally free. For the next 10 years, John and Yoko's life was a mix of intense creativity, political activism, and personal struggles. They moved to New York City. They had their only son, Sean, in 1975. After Sean was born, John took a 5-year break from music to be a full-time father and house husband. This decision was revolutionary for a rock star in the 1970s. Yoko managed their business affairs. This was their radical vision of a modern marriage. When John returned to music in 1980 with the album Double Fantasy, their love story was mature and strong. The album was about their life together, their family, and their deep love. Tragically, John Lennon was murdered in December 1980, just a few weeks after the album was released. The love story of John and Yoko was controversial, intense, and deeply influential. It showed the world that a relationship could be a creative collaboration, a political statement, and a place to find freedom from conventional rules. Yoko did not destroy John Lennon. She gave him the space to become the artist and man he truly wanted to be. Thank you for joining Quicktail English. Subscribe for more stories about love, music, and history, and continue practicing your B1 English. See you next time.